So I want to introduce everyone to my friend Folke Engholm. He is the CEO and co-founder of Viral Access, the leading influencer marketing company in China and throughout Asia. And wanted to connect with you, Folke. Thanks for making the time. And I think it's very interesting to just get your perspective. So to start, I mean, before we dive into the influencer marketing piece, what's the sense of everything right now in China? What's day-to-day life look like?
I mean, it's pretty much normal, I would say, or what we in the West call like post-corona normal. And I think so. The life is pretty back as it used to be, except some few things. Those could be like people are wearing masks everywhere now. So it's not a question of should we or should we not. It's just common sense now that people wear masks when we are in crowded places. So that's the first thing. The second part is the technical aspect of this, which is like you have to have QR codes, you have to have scan stuff when you walk into malls and other crowded areas. That's also something that the big tech companies here, together with the government, I guess, just did in just a couple of weeks. So, but besides that, people are super positive, and like I say before, they're eager to get back to normal. And things that we said before also, people are shifting heavily towards, consuming media and consuming products, in a completely different ways. And buying, groceries and stuff, obviously are things that are sort of exploding now. So I think we will see some habit changes in consumer behavior as well, for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like for us, at least in the US, March 16th was like the first day of our business day where the economy really felt the shock. And it was kind of like the oh shit moment where everyone's like, okay, this is real. Oh shit, what are we going to do now? And we're, as a country, I feel like here in the US, still scrambling to prepare and figure out what to do. You mentioned QR codes, and we are talking a little bit about it before, but like, can you talk about that? Like, what does the QR code do?
I mean, that QR code is not only specific to me, but it's also like connected to my neighborhood and the people that are like in my neighborhood. It probably is even more sophisticated than I know, but those are the things that we know about. And that basically gives me a color, green. So if I'm entering a crowded place, I just have to show my QR code and then they will see automatically that I'm green. So if somebody in my neighborhood, or somebody of my friends are like having a fever, that will automatically put my green color into yellow mode. That gives me limited access to certain places. And if somebody in my building, for instance, got the corona, then I would be red. Even though I'm not carrying the virus myself, they just, by caution, don't let me, to enter certain buildings and places.
Yeah, so it's like assessing the risk level.
Correct.
Was it like that when the coronavirus first took off in China, or is this pretty new?
No, I mean, nobody knew really. I mean, this is the thing also. People talk about what's happening in China as it was like a centralized thing. China is a huge country. And, even though, Wuhan got locked down, the city of Shenzhen, where I live, a 20 million people city, we never had a lockdown. So, but people don't talk about that. And we have 3 deaths in this city so far. So people, wearing masks, I think it's still, on debate in the West, which is crazy from my perspective. It's just like common sense. Don't sneeze into room. You will spread shit around the room.
Right.
If everybody walks around with a mask, that obviously limits, you spreading stuff around. But, in Sweden and the US and in Europe, we're still debating like, should we or should we not use a mask? I think in Asia, they have been way more accustomed to that fact that, if I have a cold, I wear a mask. I don't want to give shit to other people. So, and I think that's one of the big reasons that people here are, they like I said, now everybody's wearing a mask. It's just common sense. And I think that had been a problem for us. We sort of struggle with it. And if I look at pictures from Sweden now, people are still like not wearing masks. And hey, what's happening? Yeah, we're spreading the stuff.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy, and in the U.S. still there's so much. I feel like still misinformation, or people aren't necessarily convinced. Like there was news
Exactly.
couple of weeks ago where people were at spring break celebrating. It's like, what are you doing? Um,
Yeah,
so
correct.
it's insane. It definitely is. And then I want to talk about like the business side a little bit too.
Yeah.
You know, as an entrepreneur, I mean, how have the past few months been for you as you've sort of gone through coronavirus and the effects of the economy, the apex? It sounds like you didn't have the lockdown, at least where your main office is. So it sounds like it didn't hit you guys as hard as it might hit companies in Europe or in the US.
Yeah, both yes and no. I mean, yeah, it struck during Chinese New Year, so we still have a lockdown throughout the country anyway, with or without the coronavirus. As you know, everything stops for like 2 weeks to 1 month in China, and that's where Corona started. So in that sense, we sort of had a natural lockdown. But yeah, to be honest, I'm quite surprised in a positive way, seeing how people handled the whole thing with a sense of like urgency, but at the same time not panicking, and just realizing what we're up against, understanding that this will take time, supporting what's happening on a governmental position, but also, back to the company where they're working. I haven't had one employee, and I have 115 people working for me. Not one person like complained or quit due to this. And we've had taken, economic measurements, sort of like a crisis package. So they're not paid fully now. So I can say that. But still,
Yeah.
people are still backing, the company up, and still cheering, cheering us up, and everybody understands that this is a phase now that we're going through. We're going to pull through together. I just have difficulties believing that this would have been the same situation back in Sweden. If I don't pay 100% on the 25th, where the salary is supposed to be paid, I have the unions on my ass and stuff like this. But here it's just a different kind of story, which made me happy as an entrepreneur for sure.
Yeah, I mean, my experience is pretty similar. I had to deliver some pretty shitty news to the team, which is,
Yeah.
the next few months are not going to be fun. They're not going to be
Yeah.
exciting, and they're going to be rough. But like, to my surprise, um, in a weird way, um, morale went up, if that makes sense. Like people had this sense of urgency, had this drive, and everyone was just like, reaching out saying, what can I do to help? What can I do to help? And it's like, from that sense, it's been a super positive, um, I don't want to say shift in the culture, because the culture was always strong. We've always had great people with this sort of mindset, but it almost like went to like another level from the crisis. Like everyone went in
Yeah.
and went into like the top gear and started really performing. So it's crazy to see. um, but yeah, I think a lot of businesses here are being hit hard, and I have some friends that are in fashion and retail, and I mean those businesses have been completely uh, decimated or put to a halt
Yeah. Yeah.
with everything happening. And I guess on the influencer marketing side, like what are you seeing? Like what did you see initially? What are you seeing now as China's coming to the end of the coronavirus, and at least or at least entering the downward part of the curve.
Yeah.
What are you seeing from your business side, and how advertisers are treating influencer marketing?
I mean, it's inevitable that social media, and what we say here, social commerce, is even before Corona, it had a way more centralized position in terms of business. I mean, all business models sort of derives from social media here. So it's not like just an add-on as it is in the West. Here, it's
Yeah.
fundamental to have a social plan. So it's the heart, and it's the engine here. So what we're seeing, obviously, is the thing we call live streaming, and that's sort of like the online version of offline buying. So we have people sitting for 6 to 8 hours and just selling stuff live to their audiences. So the live streaming are increasing like hundreds and hundreds%. And that's also a way for influencers to sort of be active about the situation and capitalize themselves on what's happening, because like we don't have the same amount of uh, business coming into them. So instead of them waiting for us to bring them business, now
Yep.
they are actively finding a way to start selling stuff themselves, regardless if it's a micro influencer or if it's a, you know, a bigger influencer. So that's definitely something that we're seeing, and this is something that we have been predicting for a long time, that, you know, everybody's going to be an influencer in a couple of years. It's
Yep.
just, you know, how much commercial stuff or commerce you want to surround yourself with. But now in China, you know, every single social media platform has one or two commerce, you know, tentacles connected to it. So it's so
Yeah.
easy to just go from just being a normal influencers to being like a social media commerce influencer.
And it sounds like you feel like this kind of pushed everyone to accelerate even more so their activity on social, and people becoming influencers essentially, or at least interacting in the social economy.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're saying, interacting in the social economy, I think it's a good way to put it. And I think that that's the activity definitely that we are seeing. And I mean, we are fortunate, you know, both of us being in the social communication space, and that, you know, in the digital space, first of all, you know, that's where the reality will be so far. Before we talked about, you know, enhancing the customer experience and these things, those are just, like I said before, just nicey fuzzy words in order to sort of support the core. Now the core will change. The core will not be what it was before. So now the core will be digital. It will be social. So now
Yep.
maybe the offline will be, you know, to enhance the customer experience.
Yeah.
So that's the shift that we're up against, I think.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. Like the way we've always looked at it is you have almost like two economies. You have the social economy, and then you have the actual economy that we're used to. And you
Yeah,
always see people building their influence and exchanging it for cash. So it's like social currency for monetary currency. And so it's interesting now to see uh, what's happened and how it's accelerated more people to be online, more people to share content, build more social currency, even though
yeah,
actual currency is a lot more restricted than it was before.
yeah,
And I guess, like, here we're also seeing, I think the US is a little bit obviously behind in terms of adoption for especially social commerce. We don't have the same level of it, but kind of living through this, you see a huge shift in consumer behavior that seems like it's going to last well beyond just the fact that people are buying groceries online now. And it's been kind of a slower adoption for quite some time, and then now it's one of those things that the behavior is now learned. It seems like it's something that's going to carry on long before. Have you seen any big changes in behavior that are going to continue on in China beyond coronavirus?
yeah, definitely. Like I said before, I think the purchasing habits definitely is going to change towards even more digital, more smartphone based. Like I said, you know, fresh food, grocery shopping has three times doubled now in the last 2 months. And that I think is going to continue to happen. We're going to continue to order more takeout and stuff. And like I said, I mean, I always look at the luxury industry as an indicator of how the most conservative part of the space is reacting. And I think it was 1 week ago, Louis Vuitton, they tried their first live streaming session with two minor, influencers on Taobao. And Taobao is not even like the high end spectra of social commerce in China. So if you would have told me 1 year ago, I would have said that that's impossible. Last week, Hublot, the watch brand, also set up their own WeChat shop, which is like a mini program inside the app. So if Hublot and Louis Vuitton are now, forced, I would say, into this space, that is saying a lot, because they have been the most resistant to what's happening in the social space so far.
Right, right. Yeah, and we've seen something similar. Like, what they think, like, why should I pay when my watches are valued at thousands and thousands of dollars? Like, and even then, it's why should we even gift the watch? We're going to be very selective. So
Correct.
it's an interesting shift. Very cool. Well, awesome, Folke. Thanks for making the time. And obviously, it's always a pleasure to connect.
No
Uh,
problem.
I, I was supposed to say this in the beginning, but this is part of a happy hour series we're doing. But given that it's 6 p.m. my time and 9 a.m. your time, uh,
Yeah.
either I could drink coffee with you, or you could drink whiskey with me, and so
Yeah, I have
there
hot
might be
tea
a little
here.
bit of mismatch.
Bubble tea.
Hot to, yeah, there we go. Maybe we'll do boba tea next call we do together like this.
Sure.